We missed
And
our
how
slot.
long in the end was your mother's funeral?
A very, very quick 10 minutes. And my mother was a meticulous timekeeper, meticulous.
And ends up with 10 minutes, a funeral lasting 10 minutes for her mother. And that's directly because of the Stop the Oil protests, which shut down the motorway.
I really am sorry. I want to try and look at the bigger picture here. And our government, she is my age, there will be drought, there will be food shortages, and worse summers than this one. So, unfortunately, it's for the people that we have to act who cannot vote to elect.
What kind of a future your children,
would you
my
replace,
generation are going
would
to
you
have?
right now?
Then we will continue to cause the disruption because that's what history has proven can create the societal change at the speed and scale required.
Some people would argue that's a form of terrorism.
馬鹿げた活動家のせいで実の母親の葬式がたった10分で終わった。そんなことがあなたの身に起こったらどうしますか？こんにちは皆さん、エリタです。またジェットストップオイルの話ですね。知らない人のためにどういう団体か説明しますと、石油使用やめろって言ってゴッホの絵にスープを投げつけたり、街中のスーパーへ突入して牛乳などを床にぶちまけたり、スローガンを書いた垂れ幕を持って道路に座り込んで通勤者を邪魔したりする環境活動家過激派といったところでしょうか。で、今回の動画なんですけど、彼らが高速道路に立って渋滞を起こしたため、実の母親の葬式が遅れてしまって、たった10分で別れを告げなければならなかった女性の話です。彼女が活動家のリーダーたちと対談した様子を翻訳しましたので、一緒に見ていきましょう。ではどうぞ。
Amanda, good evening to you.
Good evening.
Where have you come from today?
I've come from my mother's funeral today.
Your mother's funeral.
Yes.
First of all, my deepest condolences
Thank you.
to you and your family
Yeah,
on the
thank
loss
you.
of your mother. Obviously, a hugely important day for your family.
Hugely.
And you wanted to give your mum a great send-off and give her the funeral she deserved.
That's right.
How old was she, if you don't mind me asking?
She was 90. She died on her 90th birthday.
So she had an extraordinary life,
She did.
which you wanted to pay proper tribute to today. And
We all did.
And what happened?
We basically got stuck in traffic because of the protests, protests from what I can gather, because unfortunately my mother lived very close to the M25 and that's where the hearse left from. And as a consequence, we were so delayed in traffic that we actually missed our allocated slot.
We're seeing the pictures here of the car behind the hearse, showing the hearse stuck in traffic. And as a consequence, you missed your slot.
We missed our
slot.
slot.
How long in the end was your mother's funeral?
A very, very quick 10 minutes. And my mother was a meticulous timekeeper, meticulous.
And I understand her best friend couldn't even get there.
Couldn't even get there. And it caused an enormous amount of issues for us, because, not least because we didn't feel that we could pay her the tribute that we wanted in the time that we did. But we had all the other arrangements that we had for the rest of the day were really put out.
I mean, I understand why young people are concerned about climate change. I understand why they want to protest and so on. I don't understand some of these methods they're using. I don't think they understand the implications and the consequences of what they do. And I think you've just perfectly explained one scenario, which has been repeated, I suspect, many times over today.
Yes.
How do you feel about it? When you see the protesters here and they respond the way they do, how do you feel?
OK, well, I'd really like, I hope I would give as balanced a view as I can, because we understand that climate change is a pressing issue. But I think to do the things that you did and to endanger, forgetting all the delays that happened to people today, actually, we got on with our day. You did not disrupt our day at all. You disrupted it, but we still felt that we managed to pay a tribute that we wanted to her. And I'm sure every other driver and everybody else you inconvenienced today felt the same thing. But if I was married to one of those police officers whose lives you were endangering today, I would be less impressed with that. Particularly when I can see a tweet from you that you're very happy with all the firefighters risking their lives yesterday and in admiration of them. But on the same token, you're allowing police officers, and some people I'm sure would have said you should be able to protest like that, and someone should have just left you there. And why should we all get disrupted if you are knowing that you are breaking the law?
OK, what's your response?
Firstly, I just want to say I truly am sorry for disrupting your day, and also condolences. I really am sorry. I want to try and look at the bigger picture here. And our government. They're investing in new oil, and these 40 new licenses that they plan to open by 2025 is a project, and they are failing to protect the people of this country, which is their fundamental responsibility.
Well, can I just say, and I hear what you're saying, and I have 3 young children of my own, young adults. And I also understand that actually what you're trying to do when you make change is actually build and bring people with you, and it's a skill to have, a really big skill. And if you don't have that skill, it's either easy to do the things that you're doing to try and get some shock tactics, but actually you're not bringing about change. And even though you might think that the government are, I at least elected them. And if I don't like them, I can elect them again, either to not be in power or choose somebody else. I didn't elect you, and I don't necessarily agree with your politics.
I mean, Piers has, is it 11-year-old daughter you have? How old's your daughter? And she is voiceless right now. She cannot elect someone in power to choose what her future looks like. And her future, by the time she is my age, there will be drought, there will be food shortages, and worse summers than this one. So, unfortunately, it's for the people that we have to act who cannot vote to elect.
Right, but
someone...
but look, I mean, look, here you have a woman who's tried to say goodbye to her mum, who's 90 years old. It would be the most important day potentially you've ever had in your life, I would think. And ends up with 10 minutes, a funeral lasting 10 minutes for her mother. And that's directly because of the Stop the Oil protests, which shut down the motorway. The best friend of her mother couldn't even get there to say goodbye to her great friend. Do you feel any sense of remorse about that when you hear it?
I mean, listen, firstly, my deepest condolences as well. I think the problem is here is you were talking about electing and re-electing governments, but we don't have the time for that. So if we're talking about the net zero targets that the government have put in place, which the judiciary have just ruled unlawful, that's in 28 years' time. And our country is burning. Okay, we've literally seen that this week. We've seen people because of the heat, and it's just going to get worse. The whole of Europe is burning and is on fire.
And there are ways to make that point. There are ways to make that point.
What we have to do is generate the political will. We're talking about determining how many people are going to die over the coming decades. We're talking about, you know, what kind of a future your children,
would you replace,
my generation are going
would
to
you
have.
Right
because
now?
Our government don't care right now.
I mean, how draconian would you be? Would you cut the oil off right now?
What we're saying is no new oil and gas. So
right.
by the government,
if it was down to you, would you cut it off right now?
No, that would be total chaos. But by the government's own reports, we have 8 years of oil and gas reserves left. That's plenty of time to transition away from that into something that's sustainable and that actually gives our generation a future. I mean, we're already seeing the impacts. This isn't something that's going to happen in 10, 20 years' time. It's happening now.
Do you really think members of the public are going to listen in any way, shape or form to you when you do the accent that you do and you're breaking? So how can you give any advice that's compelling or build an argument and bring people into that argument and try and persuade them when you're actually going about...
This is the point. You see, I looked at all the reaction, right, on the news stories, on all the websites. I looked at the social media reaction. It was almost universally hostile towards what you're doing. Not to the cause you represent, but to the methods you're using. It was relentless hostility. You weren't bringing hearts and minds. You were actually driving them away. And that's my problem. I don't think what you're doing is working. I think it's having the opposite effect. It's getting you short-term publicity. It's getting you on shows like this. But when people hear this kind of story, they're like, who the hell are you guys? Frankly, to be stopping this lady from going to pay proper tribute to her mother, to holding up a hearse on the way to a funeral so they miss their slot. Who are you to do that? You're deciding what you think is more important, whose lives you think are more important. And I say to you, I'm with you about the cause.
But Piers,
when I hear that,
about
I'm
the
not
lives of every future generation on this planet.
Yeah.
What is more important than every single life?
I think every life is as important. Right?
Exactly, yeah.
And including Amanda's mother.
And we risk losing all of that. All of it. Every life on this planet.
Where does your disruptive tactic stop? And what, you're going to keep gluing yourself to things and stopping sporting events and lying in motorways and so on? Where do you go with this? Do you get ever more extreme? Do you get ever more disruptive? And what do you hope to achieve with it? Because at the moment, I'm not seeing anything.
I mean, listen, until the government make a statement that they won't invest in new oil and gas projects, then we will continue to cause the disruption because that's what history has proven can create the societal change at the speed and scale required.
Some people would argue that's a form of terrorism.
頼むぜ。皆さん動画どうでしたか？彼ら活動家が揃って言うのが、社会を混乱に陥れることで革命を起こすことができる。これは歴史が証明してきた。みんな揃って同じことを言うのってやっぱりマニュアルみたいなものが存在してるんですかね。それならカルトや詐欺団体と変わらない気がするんですけど、何か論理的なことを提案されたら毎回、私たちには時間がないのって語尾を強めて言いますけど、せっかちなんですかね。未来の子供たちを守るためにこの行動は必要だって言いながら現代の人たちを危険にさらすのって超矛盾してるのを気づかないんですかね。最後に女性が言っていたように、彼らは所詮テロ集団になり下がってしまってるのはとても残念ですよね。環境問題は確かに起こっていて深刻な問題だと思うので、もっと良い活動方法だったら聞く耳を持つ人もきっと現れるはずなんで、彼らにはぜひ変わってほしいですね。じゃあ現地の声をいくつか紹介していきますね。The fact that the police is actually allowing a 9-mile traffic jam but not taking care and arresting those idiots is outraging. This doesn't make me want to support them in their cause. It makes me want to see them get the living out of them. They aren't sorry at all. She doesn't care that she disrupted anybody's day. She's glad that she did it because that's what gets her attention. If I were to sit in a room with somebody who caused me to miss a funeral for somebody I loved, I don't think I could contain myself. Crazy how quick people justify bad behavior by using the bad behavior of others as an excuse. What's insane is that they're able to have this interview and not be or on the ground. 葬式に遅れてしまったアマンダさんのことを悲しむ声、そしてなんで活動家は逮捕されないんだっていう声がとても多い印象ですね。もしこんな活動家が日本に入ってきて同様のことをするんだったら僕たちはどうするべきでしょう。皆さんはどう思うかコメント欄でぜひ教えてください。新チャンネルの頼むぜアメリカはこういったマジかよっていう欧米ニュースを楽しく取り扱ってます。12月からブルックリン東京は無期限の休止、新チャンネルの頼むぜアメリカのみでの配信となりますので、登録がまだの方はぜひ概要欄から飛びますんでよろしくお願いします。では皆さん良い一日を。